Well, we've been, we've supported Big Brothers Big Sisters. We gave them $40,000. Ronald McDonald's House $30,000. And this past year, Larry Feldman, who was someone who helped CIBS along from the beginning.
Yeah, he was our first in-house attorney.
Yeah, CIBS did an endowment with Hofstra University in the amount of $25,000. So we have given a lot back to, and there's been plenty of others. That's just the last 3 years, actually.
Good stuff.
So yeah, no, it's all been good. So initially, when you came into CIBS, the concept of CIBS to sort of counteract maybe ABLI a little bit, to have less lawsuits, to have a more unified voice. What were some of the other early goals?
Professionalism of the brokerage community.
Yeah,
I think that was
one
one of the big issues.
That was primary.
Yeah. We felt, Paul brought it up, in a conversation of, people doing things that we looked at as maybe a little bit unethical, not the right professionalism, just not being unethical, but being a professional. And I'm not patting everybody here on the back. This was a very professional group of 4. And we looked at it and said, it's got to be from the guy that walks into this industry day one, or to the person that's been in the industry for 5 years, 10 years, or 15 years. They have to be professional. You're dealing with multi-million-dollar requirements. You need to be professional. You have to be able to talk to an attorney professionally. You have to be educated in what you say. You have to be able to talk to a developer professionally. And that was a big issue too. Professionalism on the part of the brokerage community.
The day of the chauffeur was gone.
Yes. And what you guys did, I'll give you credit, all those education classes, from whatever it's, from commission agreements to how to read a lease and what's important, that was critically important, and my hat's off to you for that.
Yeah, but we talked about that,
Yes.
The educational aspect from the beginning as well. When we said the professionalism, we needed to bring the people up to a different level. And we needed to have an organization and a platform to accomplish that.
Right.
That was always the intention.
Well, I know with Larry, we started the CIBS Ethics Mediation Arbitration Group, so that was back in 1998, and we use that probably 4 times a year now.
That's great.
We're not public with all of what's going on with it, but we've had everything resolved at the mediation level, and we haven't had to go to the arbitration level.
That's perfect.
That's great.
That was not the case.
Yeah, so that's been good too.
Right.
It's very successful.
If you were, so why don't we comment a little bit about where CIBS is today, and we'll do it sort of like in a two-prong way. Do you think that CIBS has now reached where you wanted it to reach, where you thought it was going to reach? And then the second question really is if you were president today, what would you do differently with CIBS, and what direction would you take it?
Well, I was saying I don't think that the 4 of us ever envisioned that CIBS would grow to what it has grown to today. And I think the important thing is that the present leadership maintain the enthusiasm and energy that has been displayed since Dom was the first president and going forward, and to keep the momentum going, because it's just, you need that. You need the young people. I think that's very important, to get the younger brokers involved early on, where the guys that are in the trenches every day, to give it the continued momentum that we've had over the last 20 years.
And that's a perfect segue. So what I was going to say, what I would do today, and I think you're doing some of this, but to me you can never do enough of it, is mentor the young people coming into the business.
Very important.
The educational aspect, the young folks, the statistics are, how many make it of 10, what's the percentage, whatever it is. And whatever you can do to help the young folks, train them, mentor them, get them to more and more educational seminars and teaching them the business, it is worth its weight in gold.
Because you have firms out here that do it. And then the worst part is there are firms, and that's not knocking any of the firms, maybe they don't have the capacity to do it.
Right.
They're smaller, they don't have those training seminars that we normally would have. And if you don't do it, there is no way for these people to learn. And then it becomes, it magnifies itself, because what happens is, as you go down the line, they're not professional, which the developers owners look at us that the industry's not professional, and that's no good.
Mhm.
You want professional people. So, and young people, every new salesperson, every new broker that comes in should have CIBS membership and go to those events. It's critically important.
Yeah.
And to me, you can't force it, but every firm should mandate that the young folks, it should be a requirement that they are a member of CIBS.
We've
The
made
real
it-
estate board does something similar to that.
Do they
You know,
mandate it?
some of the firms, they don't mandate it, but we, in the city, the young folks coming in have to join RevNet.
Mm.
It's
We
great.
should do it here.
We've made it easier for them. We've created this associate board where they're appointed. So
Okay?
they don't have to run, you know,
That's
where,
good. That's a good
That's
where,
idea.
you know, when you're running, it's a little bit of a popularity contest
Right,
where
right.
whoever recognizes your last
So
name.
the leadership of today will appoint several
Right,
of the younger
right.
brokers?
Yes.
Okay,
That's a
We're,
great idea.
we're in the
That
process
is
right
good.
now of trying to get Joe's son,
Joe.
Joe.
okay.
You know, we've approved his appointment, so we just now have to get him to
And you
accept that.
assign them to
That would be
various
great.
committees, or are they?
Yes, it's as an appointee.
That's a great idea.
He's not
That's a
a
very
voting
good
member of the board. He'd have to be voted in by the membership to do that.
Okay.
So, but he's at all the board meetings. He can participate in, you know, the committees. And when the next election comes in, we've been fostering them into going out and running for election, where they are now a voting part of the board meeting.
So don't edit this out. You ready? Joe, it's a great thing to do.
Do it, Joe.
Pop speaking.
I'd
So-
like to go back to the, when we stopped and called this advice to Gary.
Oh, yeah. So if this is if you were president now, what would you do? So Paul, why don't you address that? If you became president of CIBS going into 2013, what would you continue? What would you discontinue? And what new initiatives would you look to do?
Well, big thing that's evolved is that you've been able to raise a lot of money. And you've been able to spread that money around to a lot of different charities and different organizations. What I would do is I would take some of that money and try to get people who are new in the business, who don't want to spend the money, to maybe be sponsored by CIBS as future leaders, one. Two, I'd spend money on bringing in some very professional speakers, real, motivating, expensive, talented people to educate, inform, motivate the youth. Because the concept of, yeah, let's just change it up, let's just do the term limits, that's great on paper, but what happens is when these people get started in a commission-only business or a draw-related business, or sometimes there is a salary, but it's a minimal salary, you know, the cost of getting things going today is really, really tough. So I would say figure out a way about how you can take some of the financial benefit and put it back into the organization, into the young people, in terms of getting them in a small setup and say X amount of people identified as tomorrow's leaders. Let's bring in some leadership because during the day they're canvassing, they're developing the business, and they might not necessarily see the long-term benefits of a CIBS. Because their goal is to put food on the table today. So I would say, get the funds that you're developing, that you're creating, and bring in some very, very talented people. And so that's one of the things I would do. I'd take those funds and I'd put them back into the young people so that they can grow to become, you know, the leaders for CIBS for tomorrow, and not just assume that's going to happen.
Real simple with me, a better educated broker is a better real estate professional. And I think the emphasis should be additionally put on further educating our brokers within the individual offices. They should be lease savvy, they should be market savvy, they should be spreadsheet savvy, and anything we can do to make that process easier for our individual brokers within our office, I think will make for a better profession.
Good. Joe?
You know, we said it before, and to me, it's all about the education. It's the education for the young and the old folks.
Yeah.
You know, not only, I mean, I think it's a different kind of educational aspect for the new people coming in. You know, all the things that Sam just said, they should know everything about every lease clause, you know, analysis, market. But some of the old timers perhaps get a little complacent. And I think, you know, you need to educate them as well. As I said, it's a different kind, different level of education. But to me, you know, I would devote a tremendous amount of effort to keeping the ethics going, the professionalism, the voice, and educating through seminars and speakers and, you know, whatever you want to call it, to get those people to the next level of whatever position they're in.
Good. So Herb, if you were
Two
president?
things. One, there are a number of large firms out here, and I know this is an individual organization. I spend a little bit of time. Who runs them? Meet with them, and you have to impress upon them, because somebody that's 24 years old coming into the business really has no understanding what CIBS is going to happen. Get to them and make them convince, however they have to do it, that their people should join. It's a professional organization. And two, LIREG has a very good program, and I know it's a competing organization, although it's not necessarily, it's different but competing. The four of us have 100 years of war stories, things that happen to give some kind of a sense of where the market was, where the market is, where the market might be going. It would be nice for the organization to be able to have Sam Razi sit with a group of 10 young people and tell them his war stories of the past 41 years, and Paul the last 30, and Joe the last 40, and me the last. It gives you a sense of, when I talk to some of my young people, and, you know, and they make a joke about me. I use the Burns and Rowe story, and they always, oh, you're talking about Burns and Rowe again? If you don't know that Giltillis built Woodbury, then you don't understand how it evolved. That exit 44 was the end of the world, and Route 110 was, forget about that, it's like going to Europe. And you just don't understand who Tony Froma is in relation to Jack Wexler and in relation to Morty Reckler. They have no conception of any kind of history of the island, and if you don't know any of that, it's real important for you to know that. So mentoring from that perspective, not on how to read a lease, but on what this whole island was about, because maybe then you could pick up some ideas on where you can go.
I agree with that. You know what was great when the Recklers opened up their new office on 110?
Right.
They created this hallway down the middle. Is that all you guys
Yes,
see?
absolutely.
And they showed the pictures from the beginning. So maybe a great concept for CIBS is to find a place and create this, you know, this historic sort of pictures, which so many people can contribute to, whether who are probably sitting in their attic somewhere. They say, you know, we're going to hold on to this, throw it out. Our kids don't want it, this and that. Where, you know, the real estate evolution.
Absolutely.
Of a very interesting time, because what I like to talk about when I get with people who are new to the business, and I like to, you know, I create the metaphor of peeling away the onion, because as we were discussing earlier, you know, the original office was nothing.
It's true.
And it was this industrial place, and that companies like Grumman were the PR for Long Island. You know, I remember that radio commercial.
Right.
I remember when there was a utility here that actually spent money towards economic development.
Sure, you used to get that, right. They used to have that, was it Long Island, like
Lilco.
Lilco, right.
Lilco.
Okay,
It was phenomenal.
And we had all those defense contractors.
Right.
You know, when
Let's not talk about that, I get in trouble.
when Sperry had thousands, tens of thousands, you know, over in Lake Success, and 1.6 million feet, and Grumman had, Beth Page was Grumman. I mean, you ask someone today, You
Well,
know,
Long,
hey,
Long
by the
Island
way,
was growing.
Well, whole Long
exactly
Island, right,
right.
exactly.
Long Island, and there was Fairchild Republic in Farmingdale, and there was Sierra Wire in Syosset, and you know,
The lunar landing module was built on Long Island.
6,800
6,800 Jericho, they already blew
North
it.
Shore Atrium.
And Donnie Reckler made it into a
True.
two-story building.
Two-story building.
If you want to do something, instead of all this stuff, go to Reckler's office, take pictures of every one of those things that are on the wall, and run that also as a something for that night.
Historical
Maybe we'll
Yes.
set up like a fireside chat kind of thing.
But I'm just saying for
Have
this
you guys
event,
come in, or people come in, and kind of like, it won't be necessarily about learning how to read a lease or lease clauses or commission agreement clauses.
There's
It'll
a,
be like the history, the ingrained history.
how we got to
how we got here,
2012.
what we're all about.
there's a
exactly.
thousand more stories.
1,000.
And a lot of them are
Good
funny, a
story.
lot of them
You know,
are, you know,
right.
sad.
The newspaper Newsday stole an idea, which was it was America, the Story of Us. It was on the History Channel, and it was from taking America from when they first landed in the 1600s to
Our story.
20. Yeah, Our Story. Obama started the thing, and now Newsday's using it. Long Island, the Story of Us. Well, CIBS should do something which is from the real estate perspective, which is where this really happened. Because I think especially today when there has been some sort of a downturn in the real estate market, there's issues, the economy's bad. It would be nice to say, we've transitioned from, a farm to industrial, to an office market, to a defense market, to a defense left. I mean, you have that picture of the jet leaving Long Island for the last time, last one built, that, we have succeeded against a lot of odds. I mean, being very expensive and traffic problems and all the other problems, and we're still successful, and that doesn't mean 2012 is the end of the world. It goes on, and somebody that's 25 coming into the business should know that 25 years from now, they have a job, and they have a real, not job, wrong word, they have a career in real estate. I think it's really important.
and I would add to that. There's all these little pockets that sort of evolve. Like what we'll remember is all those insurance companies,
Oh.
all those back office banks, which I could sit here and I know you guys could double and triple everything I say, but those huge jobs that were Chemical Bank in Jericho, that were Chase Manhattan Bank in Garden City and Lake Success and
Manufacturers
City
had over
Manhattan.
100 and
How
102.
about Nat West at
Right,
3HQ?
absolutely.
Okay, how about Long Island Savings Bank? How about,
European
EAB Bank?
That doesn't exist,
EAB
right.
Bank.
Maybe.
Okay, and all of these layers that have evolved and changed, quite frankly, we had 2, 3, 400,000 square foot requirements from these large back office insurance companies. And I'll tell a story that really wasn't really told by too many people because nobody really saw it, is that we had all these back office banking jobs with these credit card companies. Chemical Bank, Chase Manhattan Bank. No, we had all those. And what happened was they soon looked upon Long Island and said, you know what? We could bring these jobs, Citibank to
South Dakota.
South Dakota. Chemical merges with Chase. They take those jobs down to Tampa.
Right?
Okay, but we did get interesting companies along the way. When companies like Grumman left, we got companies like Computer Associates that came here in a big way. We had other companies that were founded in the basement, or the garage, whether it was a Grumman, whether it was a CMP that came and went, right? Took all that space for a period of time, and then some of the great characters. You would do yourself a great justice if you could get some of these great personalities, some of these people that have all the stories, whether it's a Morty Reckler, whether it's a Donnie Reckler, whether it's some of these other.
Don Axons of the world. I mean,
Yeah, but
These
unfortunately
people-
we've
Roger
lost the
Reckler.
Don Axons. But Don Axon was a
Remember opening, I'm sorry,
Go ahead.
I need to interrupt you. Donald and Roger Reckler, when they opened up
Me?
MacArthur Airport.
no, AIP,
Yeah,
Airport
AIP,
International
remember that, which-
Plaza.
Talk about the end of the world at that time.
Absolutely.
And it was interesting how
Yeah.
some of
But the marketing,
those properties jumped ahead like when I heard when Huntington Quad was built, there was like
Oh,
no tenants for the first buildings.
Total fair.
$4. I want you to notice I had a tenant for 100,000 square feet. This you can write down because I'll never forget this. We came to see Jack and Morty, who was supposed to be there at 11. We got there at 12, and they walked out, and they were empty. Empty. And they walked out and they said, we eat lunch at 12 o'clock. If you want to come back at 2, it'll be fine. And I'm telling you, and they made a proposal at $4.40 a square foot for 100,000 square foot tenant.
Yeah.
And it, you know, it's
Full service.
it's full service, and it's not the idea of what it's you. We learned the business from guys that were pioneers, visionaries, and came out of that Depression
Yeah.
era and had a real
They were
tough business.
tough.
They were tough, and you know, it would be nice for some of the young people to understand
To see that.
it's not just a walk in the park. It's a very tough business, and you have to continue to work at it. And people change. That's not a problem. It's if you don't know the history, it's real hard to be able to deal with some of these things that go on. And I think it's really important. That would be, to me, one of the things that I think in New York you seem to get that a little bit more. You have a better flavor of where it's come from and where then it might be going.
But you know, let truth be told, Long Island is a small market compared to New Jersey. It's a small.
It's a
pimple.
tertiary market.
It's a pimple compared to New York City. So what happens is we don't get the depth of
You're
the
right.
professionalism on the multi-levels. But what we did get was we got tremendous entrepreneurs. We got personalities. Like someone mentioned Don Axon earlier. Don Axon. I mean, the family I think started out in the lumber business. He went and with a lot of those guys who, you know, maybe got involved in some houses. He wrote 4 or 5 books. He became the president of the college in Vermont. He was involved in a tremendous amount of charities.
Where do you see, or what do you see, the role of the advisory board going forward? What would you like to see change with that? What do you think they should be doing?
If everybody shows, it's too big a group, and it doesn't give you the ability to have any kind of dialogue. But I think the advisory board has done comparatively well in addressing specifics that we might have on an individual basis of what's going on. And I think you've taken them under, I don't want to be funny, but under advisement, and you've acted on a lot of what we've discussed. So I have no problems. I just don't like, to me, a group of 8 is better than a group of 16. It just becomes unwieldy.
Well, how
and
big
then
is it?
nothing.
Is my question.
Well, it depends. Well, the last time we had it at Glen Oaks,
Yeah,
I think
like
about
15 show.
15 show. When it
pretty
gets
big.
to that size group, it's hard to have a real substantive discussion, and I think it's better to have a smaller group. And then we're only 4, and of which of the 4, maybe 2 show up, 3 show up,
Right.
and then it's just too many.
Well, what's
past
the
presidents.
purpose of the advisory board? Is my
Well, it's
question.
really to keep the original vision of CIBS, because as you can see, CIBS has grown into something that none of you thought it was going to, or envisioned it growing into. So, but you could grow into a direction that's also contrary to what the original vision was. So it's to keep it there. The 4 of you have the most experience, and the past presidents, especially the early on past presidents, have the most experience of the way things were. Some of the younger guys only know the way things are, and don't have that contrast to pull from. So we are looking, we've branched into a lot of different areas. We've gotten more political, over the past few years. Not that we've been supporting individual politicians, but we've been supporting legislation and issues that affect the community and our, Long Island. That might not be something that or you think is good. I mean, it might be something that you think is good.
Why don't you narrow the scope and give the advisory board a charter that says, deal with these specific issues, so it's not so broad and it's not an open book to deal
And
with
then maybe
anything.
do a
Narrow
little
it down and
agenda
say,
as
okay,
well.
Yes.
here are the things that
More
are
of an agenda
critical
beforehand,
that we
then
want
we know
you to
what's going on.
focus
Well, I'm going to
on.
be the new chairman coming out as
Should be the
past
chairman.
president of the advisory board. So that's
So,
why now we have a
but you
budget,
said
a bigger
something
budget.
that's really
With-
important.
with Dave,
But you
there's
said
18
something that's
people.
really important in what you said,
That's a lot of
which is, if you look at it, I would say make it the last 4 presidents, which goes
Yeah.
back 8 years. Is that 8 years?
I agree with
Yeah.
that.
Well,
In other
computing we
words-
started 2 years. The rest of them were 1 year. terms.
Okay, but whatever, 4 or 5
Yeah,
years of
yeah.
people coming, so there'd be 5. But somebody that was a past president
15 years
17,
ago.
18,
20 years ago, right?
20 years ago is not somebody that is, because they fall into the category of they us or are they
Mhm.
past president. I think the past president have a better handle
I think it's
in the
an
past
excellent
4 or 5 years.
suggestion.
Thank you, Paul. I
Keep it
really
relevant.
appreciate
No, but you
that.
got to keep it relevant.
You have to
And-
run really. So.
On the record.
See, and I was going to go a little, good point, but I was going to go a little different. Because you want the span, to get the historical, the original, us, then, historical, mid to now. So while I think it should be weighted more of recent folks, I think you want, 1 or 2 that go back in time.
Mhm. What is your proudest moment of CIBS over the 20 years? Paul.
Whoa, a quick one. The founding.
Founding.
Yeah, the very
Sam.
beginning.
Seeing what it's developed into.
I was going to say that the fact that it's here and as successful as it is, and with the number of members that are here today.
I'll be the politician. The founding and where you guys have taken it to, because I don't think any of us sitting here thought it was going to be where it is in 2012.
Here, here.
Agree with that.
Gary?
You guys have done a great job.
I actually had a last question. Recently, you guys may have seen that New York State was voted dead last, the worst state to do business in the United States.
I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. I think it came out
Wow,
about a week
that
ago.
last?
Yes.
Dead last.
About a week ago.
Last year was New Jersey.
It was a New
This year
Jersey
New York.
paper.
So here we are, the worst state to do business in the country, and the highest tax state in the country. So, in our little way, what can we do as an organization to try to, reverse that track? Obviously, we're not going to change New York State laws so easily, but maybe there's something that we can do or start or initiate to move away from last place.
There is a tremendous disconnect between the population, the average person that works on Long Island, and what the effect of business is on Long Island. They just don't
Right.
understand.
That's right.
Politicians talk over their head. They only care about being elected to the next election. Unless you can have a connection between how business affects every one of those people, school board budgets, general budgets. If you can't make that connection, and that's what CIBS should be able to do, or try to do, make the connection so that the Mary and the John that live in Hicksville that are complaining about taxes, their kid's school is not as good as it should be, and all the other things, traffic, if you can't get them to understand that without the businesses that are out here supporting and paying the freight, you're going to have a continuing deteriorating lifestyle and a deteriorating market. Get people to understand that there's a connection. And I don't think a politician out here understands that.
And therefore, maybe that's where you go to the advisory board, to give them that mandate to kind of corral that and get that message out.
Love the idea.
Love the idea.
You come out here. and
Sam,
do it.
any thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree with what Herb said earlier.
Paul?
I really believe that the marketing of Long Island is horrendous. I believe that we get these images over the years as the garbage barge place. We get these images as the highway is
But if you
terrible with
Joey,
traffic.
remember, but if you
We get those images as well. And we don't get the images of, excuse me, Cannon is building 800,000 square feet. Where is that happening, other than New York City doing Google? Show me where it's happening. Is it happening in Connecticut? Some companies committing those level of jobs? To me, it's a side story. It should be front and center in all the media, because the jobs they're going to create and the dynamics that doesn't fully get comprehended is simple. When you're in Lake Success with 350,000 feet, I'm guessing, that they
A
have.
little more,
right
but
now.
we're not gonna argue over.
So then you're in Lake
422.
Success there, you can commute from New York City and come to Lake Success. You can even commute from Westchester pretty easily, or Connecticut, and come to Lake Success. You can even make the pilgrimage from New Jersey if you have to be there, it's a good job. Once they move deep into Melville, that circle starts going to the Hauppauge School District, housing, the purchasing, and all of that on this farmland that they built here on this lousy place to do business. So lousy that this company that's a $40 billion a year business, and it's, what's going on over there? They're building something? Now, we won't comment about the two garage buildings built in between, with an office building in between the garage buildings.
Could
We
you
won't-
believe
we
that?
won't go there.
No, but you did already.
So anyway, we're appreciative of this great opportunity. We're appreciative of the great efforts of Dave and all of this talent that has come and picked up this original vision and taken it to another place. But I think there's a lot of work yet to be done. We might be all impressed where it's gone, but I think with the challenges that Long Island has ahead of us, we can't underestimate the work that CIBS needs to do going forward.
Great ending,
Thank you.
good point. Canon is something that is just under the radar. It has been under the radar. It will change the balance and the dynamic of exactly what you said. Everything now moves east.
Yeah.
Lake Success will be refilled by North Shore Hospital and whatever it is, but east now becomes a very viable community. And nobody ever, he gave you a great mandate. If you want to do something that says we're not a dying community. We are viable, and that should be the
Front
centerpiece
and
of
center.
a viable community.
Front and center.
Amen. You.
Thank you.
I think I said
That's it.
amen, but it's supposed to be
Yeah.
amen. That's okay.
You know, it was funny, we understood what you meant.
Yes, that's the part that brings it.
That's the same.
I think we're done.
Well,
Thank you.
we'd like to
Thank you,
thank
Dave.
Paul Amoruso, Sam Razi, Joe Logano, and Herb Hagan for joining us here today and for being the genesis for CIBS. And here we are at 20 years. Thank you.
You.
Good job.
Good job.